Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Pleased to speak on the bill this evening on our Great Barrier Marine Park. Speaker, anyone that has visited the Great Barrier Reef, or anyone that's even seen pictures of us, can't help but to be amazed by its crystal clear waters, its picturesque tropical islands, its beautiful sandy beaches, its abundance of marine life, its colourful tropical fishes and its most spectacular coral formations in all colours of the rainbow. Anyone that sees that, Deputy Speaker, simply cannot help but fall in love with our Great Barrier Reef. And no wonder it's considered one of the wonders of the world. And we all, Deputy Speaker, in this Parliament want to do everything we can to protect it. If we think it's in risk or we think it's in danger, Deputy Speaker, all of us want to do everything we can to protect the reef. But its beauty, its breathtaking beauty, Deputy Speaker, has a double edge to it. There's a double-edged sword to it. Because it makes the Australian public highly susceptible to misleading and emotional scare campaigns about the reef, similar to what we just heard from the member for Watson. Now, on these misleading campaigns, we only have to go back to last year and some of the headlines that were being put out across the internet about a bleaching event that occurred. News.com said, and I quote, this is the headline, "The Great Barrier Reef is dead at the age of 25 million years." The Independent in the UK said, "The Great Barrier Reef is declared dead after a long illness." Perth Now wrote, "The record coral die-off wastes 70% of the reef." The ABC, our ABC, had a headline saying, "2/3 of the northern Great Barrier Reef is wiped out. The Barrier Reef dead after being clobbered by the worst bleaching event in history." Of course, we saw the ABC actually use pictures of what they claimed was bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. It was in fact, a picture of a reef in American Samoa. Deputy Speaker, this scaremongering sends the message out across the world that the reef is dead and is not worth visiting. It harms our tourism sector. It harms all those Australians working on the reef, Deputy Speaker, that rely on international tourists wanting to come to see the reef. If some people are out sending a message that the reef is dead. And what did the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority actually say about some of these headlines? And I quote, they said they were ridiculously exaggerated. They said they were irresponsible. And in fact, Dr. Reichtel, the chairman of the Great Barrier Marine Parks Authority, said, and again I quote, talking about these misleading scare campaigns, he said, "I don't know whether it was a deliberate sleight of hand or a lack of geographic knowledge, but it certainly suits the purpose of the people who sent it out." Deputy Speaker, it was a completely misleading campaign. It was fake news. Yes, there was a bleaching event on the reef, but to claim that the Barrier Reef was dead, Deputy Speaker, was simply fake, scaremongering news. Designed, Deputy Speaker, to mislead Australian people and to get them to make emotional, irrational decisions. When we're dealing with the reef, Deputy Speaker, we need to deal with the science and the evidence. Now, what was not reported, Deputy Speaker, that the Great Barrier Reef is actually divided into 4 separate management areas. There's the far northern zone, the northern zone, the central zone and the southern zone. And where they talked about bleaching of the reef, they were actually only talking about the northern zone. And that, Deputy Speaker, is only 11% of the area of the Great Barrier Reef. So while it's true 2/3 of that part of the reef was actually bleached, This only accounts for 7% in total of the reef being beached. But what was not explained in any of these articles, Deputy Speaker, is that 97% of the Great Barrier Reef's tourism is located in the central and southern zones. And how were they affected by the bleaching last year, Deputy Speaker? Remember, 97% of the tourism activity takes place in these zones. Well, the southern zone, Deputy Speaker, which is 44% of the reef, only 1% of that section of the reef suffered a bleaching event. 1%. And in the central zone, which is 22% of the reef, Deputy Speaker, it was only 6% of the reef that it was affected. So in total, the southern and central zones, where 97% of the reef's tourism activities take place, Deputy Speaker, 97%, Deputy Speaker, which is a total of 64% of the entire reef, of that area, we had 98% that was not affected. So the area where all the tourism industry, Deputy Speaker, from the recent bleaching event last year was only affected 2%. And yet, Deputy Speaker, we have claims and stories going out worldwide that the reef was dead. And Deputy Speaker, we can learn from past events because the Great Barrier Reef did suffer a significant decline in coral cover from 1985 to 2012. And this was caused from various reasons. It was the severe tropical cyclones, it was damage from the crown of thorn starfish, and also two previous bleaching events in 1998 and 2002 that were associated with El Nino patterns. But Deputy Speaker, it was interesting from those bleaching events back then, Professor Ridd's comments, Professor Ridd being an expert in this area. He said the findings did not take into account one of the worst cyclones to hit and affect the reef, Cyclone Hamish, in 2009, which wiped out half of the reef systems. Professor Ridd wrote, "Coral recovers fast. 6 years on, more than 1/3 of that loss would be alive and flourishing. And guess what? Cyclones are part of life's natural cycle." Lady Elliot Island eco-owner Peter Gash said, Deputy Speaker, and I quote, "The scientists made out the reef is half dead, but they picked a moment in time when a fierce cyclone had tracked down the length of the reef and did enormous damage. I'd challenge anyone to go out where Hamish, that Cyclone Hamish hit, it is almost completely recovered." And in fact, it had, Deputy Speaker. The science tells us that between 2012 and 2015, the Great Barrier Reef recovered and actually increased in size by 19%. So the gains that we had in coral growth between 2012 and 2015, Deputy Speaker, were greater than the bleaching losses we had from the previous year. Secondly, another important point, Deputy Speaker, if you read the headlines, bleaching is not death of the coral. And again, I quote Professor Peter Ridd. He says, "Bleaching is one of coral's defence mechanisms and should be regarded as a strategy for survival rather than a death sentence. Gradually, it stops them, the coral, from dying. Most corals bleached fully recover. A survival mechanism such as bleaching indicates that corals have adapted to periods of unusually high temperatures in the past." They are the words of Professor Peter Ridd. But yet, Deputy Speaker, if you went out into the Australian public today and you asked them, does bleaching of coral mean that coral dies? I would say, Deputy Speaker, 90% of the people would say, yes, that's exactly what it means. But the science tells us otherwise. Professor Ridd, Deputy Speaker, also, and I quote directly from him, he said the mass bleaching that occurred on the reef in 1998 and 2002, but the vast majority of the corals on the reef have since recovered and survived. And Deputy Speaker, bleaching is not something that is just a recent event. And again, I quote Professor Ridd, and he said, Bleaching was first recorded early last century by Sir Charles Maurice Yonge in the first major scientific study of the Great Barrier Reef. And he noted that there had been 26 records of coral bleaching before 1992. Professor Ridd, again, I quote, he concluded, "Due to the remarkable mechanisms that corals have developed to adapt to changing temperatures, especially the ability to swap symbionts, corals are perhaps the least endangered ecosystems to future climate change, natural or man-made." That's the science, Deputy Speaker, not the misleading scare campaigns that we hear from the opposition. But yet, Deputy Speaker, the coalition government is working, Deputy Speaker, to ensure that we do everything we can to protect the reef. We can't stop rising temperatures of sea levels. We can't stop cyclones, Deputy Speaker. But we can do a lot of things to ensure the reef's viability. A few things, Deputy Speaker. On the 5th of July, the World Heritage Committee unanimously endorsed Australia's Reef 2050 plan and the Coalition's progress of implementing it. The World Heritage Committee has not put, the World Heritage Committee has not put the reef on their endangered watch list. This decision recognises Australia's significant efforts, that's the Coalition's significant efforts, in investment and early effective implementation of the Reef's 2050 plan. We're investing, Deputy Speaker, the Coalition Government, $2 billion jointly with Queensland under the Reef 2050 plan to improve the health of the reef. Our investment continues to target water quality improvements such as reducing nitrogen, pesticides and sediment runoff, as well as culling the coral-eating crown of thorns starfish. Now, Deputy Speaker, we can compare this to Labor's past track record when they were in government. When they left office after 6 years, which included partnership with the Greens and Independents, they had 5 massive dredge disposal projects were planned. And the World Heritage Committee had put the reef under Labor, on watch, and listed it as in danger. It was the Coalition, Deputy Speaker, when we came to office in 2013, we are the side that took unprecedented action, Deputy Speaker. We ended all those dredge disposal plans put in place by Labor. And as a result of our actions, Deputy Speaker, it is the World Heritage Committee has removed Australia from the endangered watch list and praised Australia as a global leader in reef management. That's what we on this side have done, Deputy Speaker. We are concerned about the science, the engineering and the economics of looking after the Great Barrier Reef. In contrast, we've seen on the Labor side misleading, scaremongering ideology, Deputy Speaker, that has nothing to do to protect the reef. The Great Barrier Reef, Deputy Speaker, is a vital, important asset to our nation. The Coalition has the runs on the board about protecting it. We have the plan to go forward, Deputy Speaker, our 2050 reef plan, which has been endorsed by experts around the world and also the World Heritage Committee, Deputy Speaker. In this legislation, it merely does a small technical issues to make sure that the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority continue with their good work. And I would encourage members of the opposition that when they are talking about the Great Barrier Reef, please do not continue to engage in this misleading scare campaign. Because what you are doing, you are harming the very people that you represent. If you go out and you mislead on the Great Barrier Reef and run stories about death and coral bleaching, you are harming Australia's tourism industry. You are wrecking jobs. You are causing untold harm to people that work hard, put their investments into the reef and love and protect the reef. Deputy Speaker, I commend this bill to the House and I plead with members of the opposition, don't harm our nation. Don't trash our nation with misleading claims, because you're hurting the very people that you claim to protect.
Yes.